Impossibilities are merely things of which we have not learned or which we do not wish to happen.
Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom.
Don't sit down and wait for opportunities to come. Get up and make them.
These are the quotes of the 2023 Black History Oratory Competition. Hello, I'm Nikki Zizaza, and welcome. Every year, WJZ shines a spotlight on Black History Month by asking high school students all across Maryland to write an original essay based on one of these quotations. The students with the top scores perform their essays to compete for scholarship prize money. For the past 2 years, our finalists submitted their speeches on video. But in 2023, WJZ returned to the stage. Our finalists performed live before an audience of family, friends, and of course, judges. For 30 years, WJZ has challenged our youth to use the power of words to speak up and speak out about the issues that matter. And now we're proud to introduce you to these amazing students as we celebrate African American history in Maryland and for the first time announce the winners of the 2023 Black History Oratory Competition right here on WJZ.
I will hold Madam C.J. Walker's quote close to my heart and rely on her words as I blaze my own path, creating my own trail. I will continue to stand firmly on my faith and believe that if I ask, it shall be given.
When you think of education, what comes to mind? A classroom, a teacher, a textbook? The truth is that education flows beyond classroom walls. Education is never ending. You should never stop learning.
It is imperative as a society that we create our own opportunities and follow in the footsteps of Madam C.J. Walker and other leaders who define themselves through the opportunities they created.
So, my message to all of you is to learn about other people's problems, read about their struggles, ask them and inquire about their issues so that you can help them. Because by not knowing, you are not helping.
Defeat fear, because if opportunities come and fear still presides, opportunities will seem inferior. Defeat fear so it doesn't defeat opportunities. While people are up and about doing things to survive, but more than surviving, the true pride is in what we do to thrive.
Liberated from the cage of conformity, true freedom from the trap of thinking that they're less than others. Because of them, we now have the ability to choose, and no one can take that away from us.
Change is inevitable, and yet still so feared. Without it, all of our tomorrows will be the same, and a quality that is so indispensable to being human will be lost. After all, humans are the most incredible change makers.
An idle mind makes an ignorant person, and an ignorant person cannot be free. Do you see the cycle? It is only when small whispers give an enslaved woman knowledge of the free North that she can seek the path to freedom.
Fear is strong. It's all-consuming. It can swallow you whole if you allow it. However, the passion you have for the things you desire in life is always stronger.
Carver wanted everyone to have a key. Now, we live in a time where people have keys, but don't have houses or golden doors to walk through. We have to meet people where they are, not just hand out keys, but guarantee that every student, regardless of their background, has access to these doors.
Life is like a bird. You can either use your wings to fly, or you can wait on the top of a tree in a warm, cozy nest, while the other birds fetch your supper. Each choice has its potential, but ultimately, it's you who will carry out the courses of life, while education is just a stepping stone to the impossible.
The workings of the world today as we know it will be thought largely impossible by almost anyone 150 years ago. The human mind is constantly learning and adapting, daring to accomplish any challenge or feat that does not seem possible to the majority, but is achievable by the efforts of a few.
Many people will never have the patience, tenacity, and mindset that we hold. Believing and taking that leap of faith you've been contemplating will overcome stereotypes made against us. And for this, I thank Madam C.J. Walker.
My father, born in a developing country, started his life in the basement of freedom, just barely having the freedom to pursue an education. However, due to his tireless efforts, I was able to start off my life well above ground in the building of freedom.
I'm in the car, he can't breathe. In the schools, I can't breathe. I'm in the parking lot, we can't breathe. At the workplace, I can't breathe. You drill the same names into our heads, year by year by year, decade by decade.
Whilst Bethune and my grandmother couldn't reach their full potential due to the unfair laws restricting them, their hard work allows others to have the opportunity to do so. Their contributions create pathways for them, and chances increase. The door becomes lighter, shackles are lifted, and greatness is achieved.
I've learned to draw my power from the knowledge that my ancestors held, from the knowledge that I hold, and from the knowledge that generations of Black thinkers will uphold after me.
My goal is to be successful in anything that I desire. To reach my goal, I need people to not judge me because of the way I am. I need people to remember and know that if someone has a disability, that doesn't mean they can't accomplish anything they desire. Pursue impossible dreams. I do.
All the students you just heard speak had to choose one of this year's quotations and write an essay explaining what this quote means to me. Only 20 finalists were selected to perform from over 200 essays. But where do these quotations come from? Who said them? And why? To find out, let's go to the Reginald F. Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture, where WJZ's Alex Glaze has answers.
A scientist, an author, and an entrepreneur. Three people who lived three very different lives, but all overcame poverty and prejudice to become pioneers. Real influencers who helped shape our society and nation into what it is today.
Impossibilities are merely things of which we have not learned or which we do not wish to happen. Charles W. Chestnut.
Charles Chestnut faced an uphill battle in the post-Civil War South. His father's grocery store slowly failed, and when he was barely a teenager, his mother passed away from illness, leaving him to help raise his younger siblings. But none of that kept him from writing. He published his first short story when he was still in his teens. By age 30, he was the first African American ever published in the Atlantic Monthly, the era's go-to source for innovative literary culture. He was born a free person of color, but light-skinned enough to pass as white. And Chestnut used these experiences to describe the complexity and nuance he found in the world.
The life he lived was his thinking. He's going to shape his ideas and form of the world through his own lens.
His Black characters were realistic people, rather than one-dimensional caricatures, and his new stories challenged old ideas.
And he does a very good job in terms of being authentic to his voice and unapologetic about it.
And even though he didn't make a living from his stories, his work opened a door for future generations of Black writers to run through.
Don't sit down and wait for opportunities to come. Get up and make them. Madam C.J. Walker.
By the turn of the century, Sarah Breedlove had been orphaned, widowed, and divorced. Determined to send her daughter to school, she worked as a laundrywoman, which paid about $1 a day, but cost a terrible price: her hair. Fortunately, she found products that not only restored her hair, but inspired an empire.
So for her to be marked both African American and female, she's coming with, quote, 2 handicaps. But she did not see that as a handicap. She saw that as a leverage and an audience exclusive to her, because there was no one in that part of the pond.
Breedlove developed her own line of hair care products and renamed herself Madam, with the name of her new husband, advertiser C.J. Walker. Her new business would change the way business was done. She perfected the products, promoted them tirelessly, and even built her own factory. The Guinness Book of World Records marks her as the first self-made female millionaire in America.
We talk about her millions of monies and her wealth and her acclaim, but there's an aspect that has not been talked about, her philanthropy, as she was empowering African American women to be able to provide for themselves.
Because of Madam C.J. Walker's wonderful hair grower, thousands who were once bound to cooking and laundry could earn their own money and send their daughters to school.
It's a tragedy that she passes away at 51, but she's giving scholarships to Tuskegee University. She's giving money to various agencies. She's supporting the suffrage movement. And she's once again hiring and employing people to make her products. So everyone's going to benefit from her presence. And as she goes up, everything goes up with her.
Today, she's an example for entrepreneurs everywhere, and she teaches all of us how to use our success for good.
Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom. George Washington Carver.
George Washington Carver faced hardship at every turn of his life. Born into slavery, he lost his mother to thieves. As a boy, he was too sickly for hard labor, so nature became his classroom. He was known around town as the plant doctor, but Carver wanted more. At age 11, he moved to a new town just to attend a better school. When he had learned all he could at one school, he'd move again. He applied and was accepted to college, only to be turned down on the all-white campus. Fortunately, he was accepted to Iowa State College, where an art teacher observed his knack for detail and suggested he study agriculture. At Iowa State, Carver thrived. His scientific research surpassed all his peers. Before long, Booker T. Washington enticed him to teach at the Tuskegee Institute, and there, Carver studied sweet potatoes, soybeans, and above all, the peanut.
It was said that he was talking to God, Dr. Carver, and it's like, show me the universe. And God said, that's too large. And, well, show me the world, and that's too large. So he held up a peanut and said, show me this. What is this? And he developed over 300 patents for peanut-inspired products.
The Peanut Man could make shaving cream, massage oil, even plastics with peanuts. He was one of the first scientists to even study the idea of using plants to make non-food products. Carver was also the first to champion crop rotation, discovering that planting peanuts could replenish soil ruined by years of growing cotton.
We can continue to be inspired and learn from this man who's born on the cusp of enslavement and freedom, who grew in depth of his science and wanted to make the world a better place.
Carver created one of the first mobile classrooms, a horse and wagon filled with plants that could travel from town to town to teach poor farmers new techniques. He provided alternative crops and methods to help farmers protect the environment and grow more economically independent at the same time. He even testified before Congress to prevent other countries from importing competing crops. Carver's genius, hard work, and refusal to stop learning changed the way America farmed and showed the world that anyone, despite their upbringing, could make a difference. As his epitaph at Tuskegee reads, he could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world.
I think for African Americans, the greatest generation were those born between 1860 and 1890. And all of our persons would fit within that era, because they're standing literally on the precipice of enslavement with parents, siblings, or themselves, and on this future that is free and open to any possibility. So they understood that the height that they would seemingly rise would not just be them. They had to take the entire race with them. So that long memory of the yesterday and that expansive, infinite future of the tomorrow.
With talent, determination, and education, all three pioneers found a better way of doing things. And when they did, they broke barriers, leaving behind an example for all to follow.
WJZ is so proud to be celebrating Black History Month and 30 years of the Black History Oratory Competition. Before we take a break, it's time to announce the third place winner. The third place winner receives $200 from WJZ and $1,000 courtesy of Walmart. WJZ's Nikki Zizaza is at Morgan State University where the students performed, and she's ready to reveal the winner. Nikki.
Thanks, Sina. And the third place winner of the 2023 WJZ Black History Oratory Competition is James Obasiolu. Well done. And for everyone at home, let's go to his speech right now.
My name is James Obasiolu, and this is my speech titled, The Fight for Equitable Education. I want you to think back to the time you received your first house key, the unparalleled sense of independence and freedom it brought. Whether you were a teenager that could now go home whenever you pleased, or an adult renting your first house or apartment, you knew you had a safe place to call home. Education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom, as George Washington Carver so eloquently stated. For many Black Americans, however, this has not always been the case. Historically, they have been denied access to education and the opportunities that come with it. For education to truly be a key, we must work towards it must be accessible and equitable for all and allow everyone to unlock their full potential. Terms like equality and equity are often used interchangeably. While equality gives everyone the same resources, equity recognizes that everyone has different circumstances and ensures everyone has the resources they need to succeed. In the 1960s, Carver's quote would have been a call for integration, as seen with Ruby Bridges, who became the first African-American student to integrate. Today, it means making schools more equitable. This includes providing counseling services, a support system of Black authors and educators, and a curriculum that reflects the heritage and experiences of all students. These resources are crucial for students to be academically successful. Without them, the Jim Crow era of Black students, like Bridges, faced immense challenges in their pursuit of education. These disparities are still very prevalent today. Just 20 minutes apart, Howard County and Baltimore City have vastly different postgraduate statistics. According to the 2018 census, 60% of Howard County students went on to graduate college, while only 28.6% of Baltimore City students graduated college. Howard County students are not inherently smarter or harder working, but they have access to better opportunities and higher performing schools, which provide students with a more well-rounded education. Meanwhile, Baltimore City schools are underfunded, have higher student-to-teacher ratios, and lack access to the resources needed for students to succeed. Baltimore City schools also have more metal detectors and law enforcement, which negatively impacts students' mental and emotional well-being, perpetuating the idea that students are inherently dangerous and need to be policed. All of these create a hostile and criminalizing environment for students, especially students of color, making it harder for them to receive an equitable education. For education to truly be a key, we must work towards equity. To achieve this, we need to hire more Black teachers, mandate Black history and ethnic studies in the K-12 curriculum, and fund counselors, not school resource officers. Carver wanted everyone to have a key. Now, we live in a time where people have keys, but don't have houses or golden doors to walk through. We have to meet people where they are, not just hand out keys, but guarantee that every student, regardless of their background, has access to these doors. We must strive to create a world where everyone can access the golden door of freedom, where systemic barriers and discrimination cannot hinder them. Thank you.
You're watching WJZ's Black History Oratory Competition, sponsored by Morgan State University. Growing the future, leading the world.
Leadership, innovation, excellence. This is Morgan State, Maryland's preeminent public urban research university, home to more than 140 academic programs where Morgan students thrive in the classroom, pursue meaningful research, serve their communities, and are inspired by award-winning faculty. Develop lifelong professional skills in a diverse academic community anchored in tradition and transforming for tomorrow. Start your path towards earning your degree today. Choose Morgan, growing the future, leading the world.
It would appear that the butler did it. But this isn't a whodunit film. It's a Nissan sales event. Now that's a killer deal. Good thing this Rogue has a VC turbo engine, unlike RAV4.
Now get a low $299 per month lease on Rogue.
Catch these offers while you can.
We are Black and Unlimited. Black creators and brands coming together in our unlimited brilliance. From our passion for personal wellness, to the endless ways we express ourselves through our hair, to the magic that makes the impossible possible, and to the food we love that brings us together. Walmart's pairing Black creators with their favorite brands to create one-of-a-kind works of art. Join us in celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart.
Hey, I just want to say congratulations to all the finalists. Being a finalist is a great achievement in itself. I also want to mention that Black history is American history, so thank you for speaking up and speaking out about an issue that is so important. And I also know that public speaking takes courage, so thank you for sharing what's on your hearts and your minds. You know, with young folks like y'all, the future is bright. Love you, Baltimore.
Hey everyone, welcome back. All month long, WJZ has been taking a closer look at African American history. But to find it, we didn't have to look far. As WJZ's Avidjoy Burnett explains, a trip through Baltimore's neighborhoods can take you on a trip through our nation's past.
In 1849, Henry Box Brown famously mailed himself from slavery to freedom. For 26 hours, he hid in a wooden crate with some water, biscuits, and one small hole for air. And one of his first stops was right here at the Mount Clair station on the B&O Railroad. In fact, so many slaves escaped through here on their way to freedom that today this is an official site on the Underground Railroad. This and so many other sites across Baltimore City help to connect us to our past. So let's go and take a walk through Baltimore City's neighborhoods as we follow in history's tracks.
The history of African American Methodism is also a very rich story.
Built in 1839 by former slave, Orchard Street Church is the city's oldest remaining structure built by African Americans. Evidence suggests that the church also played a role in the Underground Railroad.
So we know that African Americans were using the Methodist Church in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., coming across Baltimore into various parts of Philadelphia and up to Canada.
And we know for a fact that up until 1970, the church served as a center for housing, jobs, medical care, and hope for those in need. In Baltimore, abolitionist Frederick Douglass taught himself how to read, write, and fight oppression, literally before he escaped slavery in 1838. And not long after he became a household name, he returned to the city and helped Isaac Myers establish the first Black-owned shipyard in the nation, right here in Fells Point, where a museum in their honor stands to this day. Sit-ins were a nonviolent and effective way to desegregate diners and restaurants during the Civil Rights Movement. And one of the first sit-ins happened here in downtown Baltimore in 1955.
Yes, as we think about the Civil Rights Movement in the HBCU community's response, the sit-ins or the sit-in movement was very large. But here in Baltimore, they were called sit-downs and sit-downers. They actually occupied and sat down at lunch counters.
Morgan State University students teamed up with the Congress on Racial Equality, and 2 days later, the president of Reed's Drug Store announced they would serve all customers throughout their entire stores.
That is what they chose to do, to sit down and be seen, sit down and be served, and sit down and demand change.
Most of us don't go to the courthouse for fun. But a waiter named William Marshall wanted his son Thurgood to learn more about how the court system worked. Thurgood Marshall grew up in what was still a segregated Baltimore and found his passion for the law in high school. Marshall was the key lawyer in desegregating schools across the country and became our country's first African American Supreme Court justice.
Entertainment venues for African Americans follow what we call the Chitlin Circuit. So in New York, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Chicago, even some parts of Boston, African American entertainers would find places owned by and operated by African Americans where they could actually express their art form without the Jim Crow glare.
From the 1920s to the 60s, the Royal Theater on the Avenue showcased some of the nation's premier musicians. Big names like Etta James, James Brown, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, The Temptations, The Supremes, and Baltimore native Billie Holiday. The Royal was the crown jewel of Pennsylvania Avenue, an epicenter of Black music, food, fashion, and culture.
So in the midst of seeing Ella Fitzgerald walk in and buy a dress, or Billie Holiday having a snack at Lily Willie's Tavern, it was a place to see and be seen, but also a place where you reaffirmed yourself as human beings and citizens.
In Baltimore, history lives on in every neighborhood and around every corner. All you have to do is follow the tracks.
Coming up, we'll announce the second place winner of the Black History Oratory Competition. But before that, we'd like to take a moment to thank the people who read hundreds of essays and had the daunting task of choosing this year's winners.
WJZ would like to thank the 2023 Black History Oratory Competition judges. From Morgan State University, Dr. Adele Newson-Horst. From Enoch Pratt Free Library, Kimberly Day. And from WJZ, Ted Hughes. Thank you.
Days ago, our finalists performed their speeches in front of an audience of family and friends at Morgan State University. WJZ recorded the speeches and streamed the event in its entirety on CBS News Baltimore. I had the privilege of serving as MC, along with the privilege of surprising our students with a very special guest speaker. Take a look.
This is someone who is no stranger to public speaking, an award-winning journalist, an author, and the real-life great-great-granddaughter of Madam C.J. Walker, Miss Alelia Bundles.
I am so glad to be here with you. I was so excited when I learned that WJZ's Black History Oratory Contest included my great-great-grandmother, Madam C.J. Walker. When I look out and I see those of you who are here, I see my younger self. I believe our stories are our power. It is really important, even more than ever, that you lift your voices, that you shine a light on the truth. When people ask Madam Walker the secret to her success, she would say to them, there is no royal, flower-strewn path to success. And if there is, I have not found it. For whatever success I have attained has been the result of much hard work and many sleepless nights. So don't sit down and wait for the opportunities to come. You have to get up and make them for yourself. Thank you.
The speech taping was an incredible event for our students and their families, and I'm sure our judges had a pretty tough time choosing winners from all of those great speeches. But let's find out who the second place winner is. That second place winner will receive $400 from WJZ and $1,500 courtesy of Walmart. So let's head back to Nikki for the answer.
Okay, here we go. The second place winner of the 2023 WJZ Black History Oratory Competition is Favor Ogadengbe. Great job, Favor. Once again, for everyone at home, here's her winning speech.
Hello, everyone. My name is Favor Ogadengbe from Eastern Technical High School, and here goes my speech. Fear. Fear, in its definition, is a feeling, an emotion, a belief that can so easily destroy dreams, visions, and if unaltered, destroy lives. It is a testimony for many successful people today to have pushed past fear, to just do it. If fear can have this much of a stronghold on us humans, then maybe it's more than just a feeling. It has a root. Maybe it has now become a habit strengthened by our words, our mindset, our heart posture. These habits begotten from fear now beget actions, but fear creates limited actions, subtle actions, infallible actions that cause us no sacrifice or pain to make. Instead of destroying fear, people now get in the habit of making fear a personality. Society, especially the youth, has painted a canvas of pride due to the insecurities and comparison that has been made prominent in our generation. Be yourself and don't change yourself for anyone. That's good, but there's more to who you are. And people who convey this motive are often befuddled, not recognizing the difference between a clone and someone who is simply inspired. And so this fear is boxed up in isolation and pride. We never want to feel like we are incapable, fear of failure. We want to stay in the place where everything works, the comfort zone. Oh no, the danger zone. Nothing fails, so we never learn. We don't fall, so we never rise. Fear can be inherited. Generations after generations carry on this nature. I mean, even young children, without being taught, have a fear of, I can't do it. They're gonna laugh at me. When we look at the parents, there is a pattern here. Personalities and traits are passed down to our descendants. That's why children act like their parents. We live our lives and forget to deal with these traits, these fears, these habits. Because the children look at the parents with a lens of inspiration, they have to suffer the burden of fighting the battle against fear. Madam C.J. Walker's authoritative tone pushes me to push past fear. She says, "Don't sit down and wait for opportunities to come. Get up and make them." The truth is, preparation will always pave the way for opportunity. Yes, you may not have all you want, and the cycle keeps duplicating day after day, but there is always something to do in every season. If you're waiting, locate an inspiration. Be inspired. Defeat fear now. Defeat fear, because if opportunities come and fear still presides, opportunities will seem inferior. Defeat fear so it doesn't defeat opportunities. While people are up and about doing things to survive, but more than surviving, the true pride is in what we do to thrive. Listen, if we live our lives through the meniscus lens of the failures, the mistakes, the trials of our ancestors, we'll never be able to take hold of our own destiny. Thank you.
You're watching WJZ's Black History Oratory Competition, sponsored by Nissan, working to build stronger communities.
It would appear that
The butler did it. But this isn't a whodunit film. It's a Nissan sales event. Now that's a killer deal. Good thing this Rogue has a VC turbo engine, unlike RAV4.
Now get a low $299 per month lease on Rogue.
Catch these offers while you can.
Leadership, innovation, excellence. This is Morgan State, Maryland's preeminent public urban research university, home to more than 140 academic programs where Morgan students thrive in the classroom, pursue meaningful research, serve their communities, and are inspired by award-winning faculty. Develop lifelong professional skills in a diverse academic community anchored in tradition and transforming for tomorrow. Start your path towards earning your degree today. Choose Morgan, growing the future, leading the world.
We are Black and Unlimited. Black creators and brands coming together in our unlimited brilliance. From our passion for personal wellness, to the endless ways we express ourselves through our hair, to the magic that makes the impossible possible, and to the food we love that brings us together. Walmart's pairing Black creators with their favorite brands to create one-of-a-kind works of art. Join us in celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart.
Welcome back to the WJZ Black History Oratory Competition Special. Every year, we are moved by the passion our students bring to their speeches. The spoken word can educate, it can inspire, it can motivate. It can change your mind and reach deep into your heart. Maybe that's why oratory, the art of public speaking in public, has been so crucial to African American history. To find out more, let's meet some of history's most influential African American orators.
In 2008, presidential candidate Barack Obama described a vision of America filled with optimism.
He spoke as if a country that has made it possible for one of his own members to run for the highest office in the land and build a coalition of white and black, Latino and Asian, rich and poor, young and old, is still irrevocably bound to the tragic past. But what we know, what we have seen, is that America can change. That is the true genius of this nation. What we have already achieved gives us hope, the audacity to hope for what we can and must achieve tomorrow.
Obama's presence at the podium helped him make history, but in African American history, oration is a tradition as prolific and as time-honored as America itself. Nowhere is this clearer than in the case of Frederick Douglass. The evidence and emotion in his discourse inspired thousands of black and white Americans to petition, protest, and eventually go to war. As an escaped slave, Douglass risked capture, torture, and death by speaking publicly at anti-slavery rallies. He was the first slave many white Northerners had ever seen, causing those who heard him to not only oppose slavery on principle, but to hate it with all their being.
I am yet a slave, yet for the sake of the cause, for the sake of humanity, I will mention the names and glory in running the risk. I have the gratification to know that if I fall by the utterance of truth in this matter, that if I shall be hurled back into bondage to gratify the slaveholder to be killed by inches, that every drop of blood which I shall shed, every groan which I shall utter, every pain which shall rack my frame, every sob in which I indulge shall be the instrument, under God, of tearing down the bloody pillar of slavery and of hastening the day of deliverance for 3 millions of my brethren in bondage.
Historian Carter G. Woodson later wrote, "When Douglass spoke, men shouted, 'What have we listened to? A thing or a man? We have heard a man.'" And a few years later, America heard a black woman, too. An escaped slave herself, Sojourner Truth, was the first black woman to successfully sue a white man who illegally sold her son. She couldn't read or write, but her life's work was as a preacher for abolition and women's rights. Her most famous speech in 1851 came to be known as, "Ain't I a woman?"
I want to say a few words about this matter. I am a woman's rights. I have as much muscle as any man and can do as much work as any man. I have plowed and reaped and husked and chopped and mowed. And can any man do more than that? I have heard much about the sexes being equal. I can carry much as any man and can eat as much too, if I can get it. I am as strong as any man that is now.
Acclaimed novelist and poet Frances Ellen Watkins Harper was born in Baltimore a free woman. But when a new law meant she risked capture and enslavement by returning to her home state, Harper toured the North raising money for the cause. With what they called a pleasant voice and splendid articulation, the local papers wrote that Harper's sad eyes were a mournful remonstrance against injustice.
This grand and glorious revolution, which has commenced, will fail to reach its climax of success until throughout the length and breadth of the American Republic, the nation shall be so colorblind as to know no man by the color of his skin or the curl of his hair. It will then have no privileged class trampling upon and outraging the unprivileged classes, but will be then one great privileged nation, whose privilege will be to produce the loftiest manhood and womanhood that humanity can attain.
Over 70 years before Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus, schoolteacher Ida B. Wells refused to give up her seat on a train. But she didn't find her life's calling until 3 grocery store owners, personal friends of Wells, were shot in cold blood after disputes with a white competitor. Devastated and outraged, Wells made a crusade of investigating, writing, and publicly speaking out against lynching, the cruel and illegal practice of murder by mob.
Time was when lynching appeared to be sectional, but now it is national, a blight upon our nation, mocking our laws and disgracing our Christianity. With malice toward none, but with charity for all, let us undertake the work of making the law of the land effective and supreme upon every foot of American soil, a shield to the innocent, and to the guilty, punishment swift and sure.
Educator and author Booker T. Washington went from sleeping in a plantation kitchen as a boy to dining in the White House as the most celebrated African American of his day. As a young man, he walked 500 miles and worked as a janitor to attend a school for black teachers, and later in life became the key founder of a new school, the world-renowned Tuskegee Institute. Washington expertly tailored every speech to the occasion, from an exposition for Southern white cotton farmers to an elegant reception at Harvard.
If through me, a humble representative, 7 millions of my people in the South might be permitted to send a message to Harvard, that message would be, tell them that the sacrifice was not in vain. Tell them that by the way of the shop, the field, the skilled hand, habits of thrift and the economy, by way of industrial school and college, we are coming. We are crawling up, working up, yea, bursting up. Often through oppression, unjust discrimination, and prejudice, but through them all, we are coming up. And with proper habits, intelligence, and property, there is no power on earth that can permanently stay our progress.
The first African American to receive his doctorate from Harvard was Washington's contemporary and critic, W.E.B. Du Bois. A preeminent sociologist and early founder of the NAACP, Du Bois called for faster progress through activism versus slower advancement through industry. A scholar and intellectual, Du Bois used a thrilling timbre and a crisp, precise voice to describe the state of African American society in America.
In the metropolis of the modern world, in this, the closing year of the 19th century, there has been assembled a Congress of men and women of African blood to deliberate solemnly upon the present situation and outlook of the darker races of mankind. The problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. The question as to how far the differences of race, which show themselves chiefly in the color of skin and in the texture of hair, will hereafter be made the basis of denying to over half the world the right of sharing to utmost the opportunities and the privileges of modern civilization.
Malcolm X didn't even go to high school, but through the voracious reading of black thinkers like W.E.B. Du Bois, he became one of the most outspoken voices for civil rights in the 20th century. To Malcolm X, the art of oratory was more than just spoken words. It was a battle. Though not as scholarly, his punchy, dynamic sentences were critical yet informal. Through language, he brought the plight of injustice to life.
Well, I am one who doesn't believe in deluding myself. I'm not going to sit at your table and watch you eat with nothing on my plate and call myself a diner. Sitting at the table doesn't make you a diner unless you eat some of what's on that plate. Being here in America doesn't make you an American. Being born here in America doesn't make you an American. Why, if birth made you American, you wouldn't need any legislation. You wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution. You wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibustering in Washington, D.C. right now.
But perhaps the most important orator of his time, whose words shaped our national conversation about race to this day, is none other than the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He too called for radical change, but only by way of nonviolence. He organized boycotts, sit-ins, and marches, like the March on Washington, where he delivered his most famous speech.
I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
Like many before him, King brought the cadence of the pulpit to the podium. The building intensity of his delivery, the repetition of key points, and the use of imagery to illustrate his message.
America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and security of justice.
In his final speech, ominously delivered just one day before his assassination, King foresaw that, though equality may not come in his lifetime, it would come, because he had seen it on the horizon. He had been to the mountaintop.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop, and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He has allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over, and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land.
In their lifetimes, these courageous men and women faced unique challenges and used the spoken word in a unique way. Some told their own story, some spoke up for others, and some risked their lives. But all of these important orators used the power of words to change the world.
And for over 30 years, WJZ has been proud to bring the tradition of oration to our young people. Our special thanks to the Morgan State University Theater Department for bringing those important speeches to life for us. When we come back, the moment we've all been waiting for, we will find out who will win the first place prize in the 2023 Black History Oratory Competition. Don't go away.
You're watching WJZ's Black History Oratory Competition, sponsored by Walmart.
We are Black and Unlimited. Black creators and brands coming together in our unlimited brilliance. From our passion for personal wellness, to the endless ways we express ourselves through our hair, to the magic that makes the impossible possible, and to the food we love that brings us together. Walmart's pairing Black creators with their favorite brands to create one-of-a-kind works of art. Join us in celebrating Black brands today and every day at Walmart.
It would appear that
the butler did it. But this isn't a whodunit film. It's a Nissan sales event. Now that's a killer deal. Good thing this Rogue has a VC turbo engine, unlike RAV4.
Now get a low $299 per month lease on Rogue.
Catch these offers while you can.
Leadership, innovation, excellence. This is Morgan State, Maryland's preeminent public urban research university, home to more than 140 academic programs where Morgan students thrive in the classroom, pursue meaningful research, serve their communities, and are inspired by award-winning faculty. Develop lifelong professional skills in a diverse academic community anchored in tradition and transforming for tomorrow. Start your path towards earning your degree today. Choose Morgan, growing the future, leading the world.
My name is Mrs. Hickey, and I would like to introduce my fourth grade students. They will recite a speech by Mary McLeod Bethune.
Democracy is both way towards which our nation is marching is a dream, an ideal, and whose
ultimate realization we have a deep and abiding faith.
As we've been extended to measure democracy, we have brought this nation rich gifts, helped to build America with our labor, strengthened it with our faith, and enriched it with our song. We have given you Paul Laurence Dunbar, Booker T. Washington, Marian Anderson, and George Washington Carver.
But even these are only the first fruits of a rich harvest, which will be reaped when new and wider fields are open to us.
Our faith envisions a fundamental change as mutual respect
and understanding between our races come in the path of spiritual awakening.
We have given our blood in its defense. From Crispus, Actus on Boston Commons to the battlefield of France. We have fought for democratic principles of equality under the law of equality of opportunity. Equality at the ballot box for the guarantees of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yes, we have fought for America, all her imperfections. Not so much that she is, but for what we know she can be. Perhaps the greatest battles before us, the fight for a new America. Fearless, free, united, morally rearmed. That this nation, under God, will have a new birth of freedom, and that the government of the people, for the people and by the people, shall not perish from the earth.
This is what American democracy needs to be.
Our special thanks to Stoneleigh Elementary School for sharing their annual public speaking program with us. I think I saw some future oratory competitors in there, so I know everyone's eagerly waiting to find out who the first place winner is. But before the big announcement, WJZ would like to say thank you to the students, the parents, teachers, and principals who made this year's competition a reality. We couldn't have done this without you. So without further ado, we are pleased to bring you, revealed for the first time, the winner of the 2023 WJZ Black History Oratory Competition. The first place winner receives $700 from WJZ and $2,500 courtesy of Walmart. So for the third and final time, Nikki, let's find out who won.
I've got the envelope right here, Sina, and the first place winner of the 2023 WJZ Black History Oratory Competition is Lillian Green. Congratulations, Lillian. Well-deserved, terrific performance. We leave you now to enjoy the winning speech in its entirety. But before we go, students, remember that with education and passion, you can make a difference. On behalf of everyone at WJZ, thank you all for watching. With young people like these, the future is bright. We'll see you next year.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lillian Green. I'm a 10th grader, and I attend Baltimore City College High School, and this is my essay. Education is more than the key to freedom. It is freedom in itself. George Washington Carver, an 1890s African-American agricultural scientist, once said that education is the key to unlock the golden door of freedom. We're not only able to be moved by his words, but by his story, which I wish I had time to tell you. Taking a page out of Carver's book, I too believe that education is critical, not only for myself, but for the legacy I will leave. This quote metaphorically exemplifies the sheer power that knowledge holds within it, how it opens doors, and to me, how the hunger for learning is a driving force in my life and in everyone else's. Growing up as a Black girl, I've had my fair share of doubts surrounding my relationship with intelligence. However, I've always found my education to be more than important. Since I could remember, my father has always called and introduced me as a critical thinker to anyone who would listen. As I look back on how I've been looked at and viewed in places of education, I notice a trend: surprise. For example, I notice surprise from anyone who hears me speak as they make assumptions about my dialect, accent, and vocabulary before I open my mouth because of the color of my skin. I hear my white teachers tell my mother how articulate I am, because obviously speaking well isn't common for people who look like me. I hear my peers tell me how I'm less Black for speaking properly, and I wonder who decided what was proper and what was not, and why is using slang held to this standard? And finally, I hear a girl in my freshman year English class say, "You really have that?" when pertaining to my good grades, yet here I am having them. I hear surprise in their voices, and I see it in their faces when I'm able to tell them about classical music, or when I can analyze literature fully and in detail. And truth be told, I love this surprise. I love the shock because I love using my smarts to show people that Black people can do anything that anyone else can and more. I love to break down their ignorance with my knowledge and the power that it holds, a power that they do not expect anyone who looks like me to hold, but we do, and we wield it well. In closing, my education has gotten me many places and has granted me opportunities like excelling in an IB World School. And I know in my future, it'll take me even further. I've learned to draw my power from the knowledge that my ancestors held, from the knowledge that I hold, and from the knowledge that generations of Black thinkers will uphold after me. Thank you.